Here we go. So now we're talking about decimal place values. So there's only one ones. And somebody gave me the thousands. THOUSANDS. Now going this way, we don't write another ones. We write TENTHS. Tenths. Then hundredths. And if you don't type the THS, they'll count it wrong because they think you're talking the whole place values. Okay. And then thousandths. Okay. And beyond. So a digit is in a place value. So if we think of the number, I'm gonna slide it back. If you got your place value chart up, you got your. Oh, I'm upside down. Oh well, that's the way the numbers roll. I have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 3 parts to this number. There's the whole number part. There's the decimal point. And then there is the this is a fraction. This is a fraction. 0.3456, do you agree? Because I can put it over its place value and then we've got it. So whole part, decimal point, fractional part. So when you read it, you say the whole part, 12. The decimal, you say the word and. That's what's going to make this lesson so hard because you got to go back and forth between the words and the place values. 3,000. $400. $56. And only things less than 100 get the dash. Then I go tenths, hundredths, thousands, 10,000 THS, 10,000. And 10 doesn't have a dash in it. What do you think? The number, oh, you want to see the actual, there it is, sorry. And with the THS means it's a fraction. It is not reduced though, is it? So that's why we had to do fractions before we do decimals. And we will be reducing. Look like they want us, oh yeah, we will be reducing. So they're going to hopefully be very specific on what kind of fraction they want. Everybody get their words down? If I had a long enough page, I would have written it sideways. I just wrote it down because I ran out of space. I'm sorry. Ready? Go into another example on how to write it as a fraction. So decimals to fractions.
The calculator will help you a little bit. If you did well on the fraction assessment, you just have one extra step. It said, for example, we have 134 and 12 hundredths. So that can be written as 134 and 12 hundredths. And that is a mixed number. But to write it as an improper fraction, you just take the 100 times the 134, so that's 134, and add it to the 12 over 100. Your calculator will not do that. The only time, it won't do. The only time it will do it, change a 134.12 to a fraction, is if it couldn't reduce. But this guy can reduce. You got to manually write. If they don't want to reduce, you got to manually write the decimal. All you do is put the place value of the fraction underneath and write the digits on top. That's what's really cool about decimals. And this is the improper fraction, if they ask for that. And then if they ask us to reduce, that's more. We've got to go to the next level. If they say change the decimal to a fraction and reduce, okay, here's the directions to reduce. You can put in that 134 and 12 hundredths over 100 and hit your fraction, put that in as a fraction in your calculator and then reduce. Divide by the common factor, whatever it is. I think it's 2. Let's try 2. Let's see if I'm right. So if I put in my fraction, 134, 12 over 100. Okay. Oh, 4 can go into it, looks like. Divide by 2, divide by 2. So if I divide it by 4, still get an even number. 3353 over 25. Then I use my toggle button. See, it goes to the decimal. Oopsie. And goes back to the fraction. That's not going to give you, remember how to get a mixed number? Second, change it to mixed. And it goes back to my 134 and 35, 3/25. So if you need a refresher on the calculator, I can help you. But you guys, if I can remember it, you can remember it, right? So that's being able to take a decimal, change it to a mixed number or an improper fraction, and then reduce if they tell you to, okay? Now we're getting into the rounding rules. Do you remember the rounding rules for decimals? Let's see, that was page 58. Page 60. Anybody remember the rounding rules for decimals? I'll give you a refresher. The rounding rules for decimals are almost identical to the rules for rounding whole numbers. But you have to remember, whole numbers, you had to hold the place values, where in decimals, you just drop the extras. Okay, let's say I want to round Again, your calculator won't help you on this. I'm going to round 12 and 254 thousandths to the nearest hundredth. If I can spell. There we go. That's the directions. So everybody has their own little markings. 5 either stays because he's in the 100th place or he changes. The 4 is not strong enough to change the 5, so I just do 12 and 25 hundredths and I don't write anything where the 4 was. You could write it, if you do write it with the 0, it depends on what they want you to do. It depends on your purpose. It doesn't look like this book wants you to put a 0 where you rounded to. As you get deeper into technical math, you're going to be rounding for precision. And so they might want you to note that this, was rounded to a certain place value. And if you don't have a number for that place value, then that's when you put in the 0. How are you doing with comparing decimals? That's got a lot. It's got like, 10 pages of notes. I'm trying to summarize it for you. But every problem will have a different scenario, and that's why they give you examples on your homework. So let's compare. I like to compare decimals vertically. So if I have 4 and 25 hundredths and 4 and 227 thousandths, it appears there's more digits on the second one, so it must be bigger. No. It depends on the place values. So if you write 4 and 25 hundredths on the top and 4 and 227 thousandths on the bottom, you add an additional 0. You could add zeros forever on the right and not change the value number. And then you start comparing. 4 and 4 is the same. 2 and 2 is the same. But 5 is greater than 2. So that's where the 5 number wins. So 4 and 25 hundredths is greater than 4 and 227 thousandths. Just means that this guy had more parts chopped into it, but he's still less parts than the 4 and 25 hundredths. So you got to see him with the same number of place values before you can say which one's bigger. Now, if 4 and 25 hundredths was negative, that means 4 and 25 hundredths is less than negative 4 and 227 thousandths. So in the negative world, the negative decimal that looks less is more, if you remember. If you remember. So there's just, drop in the ocean of examples. Please use yours. 5.1 should be open for you. And I just wrote that this chapter we're going to be doing all decimals. We start with the intro in this one, and then we'll go on to adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, using them in equations, and march on. I hope you see the routine when you're dealing with numbers. It all, quote unquote, adds up, doesn't it? Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. I'm gonna turn that off and give it to the YouTube. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know what